Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
This is The Long War. I'm Katie Boucher, joined tonight by my partners in crime, Wyatt Turk from Jack Club's Painting and the legendary author of Graveyard Shift, Mike Haspil, while Rob Baer is on the couch. What's up, guys?
Yo, how's it going?
Ill and well met. What's going on?
Yo, it's been a hype ass week. I feel this is the second podcast of the year, perhaps. And last week I felt like we were complaining, like, it's full steam ahead for 2020 right now.
I am hype.
The hype train has no brakes.
Why are you hype, Mike? There's nothing recently that occurred during the history of this show that anyone would be aware of that would make you excited, is there?
There might be. Like, Grey Knights might have gotten the eye of GW may have looked in their direction.
They finally got released from the sex dungeon they were locked in.
Yeah.
On their apology tour for 10 years or some shit because they were so OP for a brief period of time in 5th edition. Like, maybe that. I mean, but I don't think I've ever heard you complain about Grey Knights. Oh, wait, for 6 years in a row I did. I forgot.
Yes.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And I went from, man, I have all my armies suck. I have nothing to really paint. I'm painting American Civil War figures to you assholes released Sisters and buffed Grey Knights like in the same month. Yeah, I'm dying over here.
Yeah. Broke. Preferred enemy wallet.
You preferred enemy wallet. Like, legit. I'm like, oh my God.
It's true. And tonight we are going to talk about all of that, including Dark Angels, the first, what's their thing? They're heretics. That's what everyone says.
They're definitely might not be heretics.
They definitely possibly are good guys. There might not be stain on their honor.
Yeah. They're good guys 60% of the time, all the time.
Oh, Dark Angels. I do love Dark Angels, I'm not gonna lie. I've always been a fan of their fluff.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, like they have that such a cool vibe, cool aesthetic, cool stories. Like I love also their parallel with like their antithesis, the Space Wolves. Because when I remember, like when I used to like read the books more and be more like into the narrative, I would like imagine the Space Wolves in their dining hall, like celebrating their victories and their stories and their heritage and just like toasting and drinking. And then like the Dark Angels are in theirs and it's just like lies. It's just like they're all there quietly eating.
Yeah, it's like a somber shit. Like everyone's eating, but no one's making eye contact with anyone else.
Yeah.
They're just shoveling food in their mouths.
It's just a crazy. So it's dope that they got some love and they got some real love. And we're going to definitely launch into a thesis by Wyatt because he has had an erection for the last 48 hours. And that's not because of the boner pills he got from the sketchy deals on Spiky Bits.
No, they do work though. Those are nice. Check those out.
Good pills. Good pills. So Rob's not here, as we said. So we will launch directly into our Would You Rather with Wyatt.
All right. Would you rather live in a world where all music exists, but only Pitbull sings it? Or all songs exist and all artists exist, but there's only Pitbull songs sung by those people, like their interpretations. So it's like in one world, all songs exist. So like the Beatles, Mark Twain, like all that shit. Not Mark Twain. You know what I'm talking about.
Shania Twain?
Yeah. But Pitbull sings all those songs.
No, I like it. I love it.
Or it's a world with one Pitbull song, but everybody has their own interpretation.
There's as many. I mean, both worlds have the same amount of songs, pretty much. Like it's pretty cool. You did give me a lot of songs. I'm very tired of you using my ears against me in these Would You Rather. Fucking last week, God damn it, Gilbert Godfrey, whispering sexy talking in my ear. Pitbull is amazing, and all of his music is good. So I would take the only 25 songs in the world are his songs, but sung by every other artist.
Okay.
I would take that.
Yeah, that's rough. I don't know. I think I would like the first one, where all the songs exist, but Pitbull sings them all.
Yeah. So you're gonna take like Blue Suede Shoes by Pitbull.
Yeah. And the reason I say that, there's going to be this is like a backwards plug. When I was envisioning my novel Graveyard Shift, there's a song by Pitbull called Shake Sonora. And it is a remake of a Harry Belafonte song called Jump in the Line.
Yes.
And it's actually better. It's a lot better. So I'm kind of down with like, okay, well, I have to take like every Metallica song is now a Pitbull song, but I'll roll those dice. I don't know.
The chat had some funny things. I think I'm going to shout somebody out in chat. Mazox, he says, I would go out with Pitbull singing the MASH theme. Think about that. That is possibly... I never even went that deep, but now I'm suddenly like, do I switch to Pitbull singing everything?
I think that's the way to go.
Because like now I'm like, wait, that is so fucking clutch. Like I'm gonna switch back to Mike's stance. I'm gonna take he all songs exist but sung by Pitbull.
Okay.
I'm doing that. It's too good. I think I'd have an endless like years worth of just hilarious new discoveries,
Yeah, because you'd just be like, well, how is he going to do Africa?
Yeah.
By Toto.
Like, amazingly.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I actually legit want to hear that now.
Oh, God damn it. This is the best one because now I want it to actually happen. This is the first time I'm like, I would live in that world. So the genie will obviously punish me in other ways.
Yeah.
I fucked up.
I'll get you next week.
So... Solid. We are going to cover so much tonight, but first let me talk about LVO. It's right around the corner. We're still on the road to LVO. We've been talking so much tactics. We've been talking so much list building. As a matter of fact, me and Wyatt today on my tactics page, we did some users list submissions going to LVO and kind of like, hey, this would work. This wouldn't work. This is what you got to think about going to ITC. Lists are all locked in. So somebody in chat also asked about when we were talking about Night Lords last week, where you can get that information there. There's no article. We never wrote anything. We talked about it here and a lot on the tactics page, which is a paywall access to my Patreon. But now you've kind of inspired me to maybe I'll come out of my self-imposed article writing hiatus after the debacle of 50,000 dicks on Spiky Bits, yeah. Where I accidentally published a bunch of drafts because Rob said to me, this is on him if you really think about it. He's like, look, I need you, this is the old days, I need you to write a bunch of drafts. They don't matter, just publish under your name so that my writer can write them and so they come out in your name, but they're about your stuff. And I was like, well, what do I write? He's like, it doesn't matter. You don't understand. Like, it could be anything. It could be just dick 1,000 times. I was like, dick 1,000 times. Yep. Got it. And so you guys know how it is. You write dick a couple times, then you Control A, Control C, Control P, Control A, Control C, Control P. You do that a few times, 55,000 dicks on a page. Then you save that as a draft, and then you duplicate it, save it as a draft. To do a few of those. So Rob is like, do like 15 of those and don't fucking press publish.
Then you forget and then immediately press publish.
And I press publish. So I might write it in like an email and like send it to Rob, and then he'll publish it.
That's probably safer.
So that way we don't fuck this up again. So to answer that question, but now
that did happen.
It's real life. That did actually happen. The word dick with no spaces 50,000 times. Like it's like next. When it was published on the page, it was like 100 pages of just dick written.
It legit looked like he was hacked.
Yeah, people thought he was hacked, so we went with it. We're like, Got hacked by Kenny's dumb, incompetent ass.
All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Yep.
Yep. But I'll turn it over to Wyatt so he can start us off on the nerd shit in honor of Rob's migraine. Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. So we got some pre-orders this weekend. Sisters of Battle coming out with the Exorcist for $80. Penitent Engines for $60. Archoflagellants for $50. Junith Arita is actually a really, really cool model. I might actually pick up for $45.
Not gonna lie, kind of pissed about that model.
Why?
No, I'm not legit pissed. I'm just kind of like, that's an awesome model. Like, I have to get her, but she belongs to a specific.
She's a named character. Yeah. Right.
So I was like, no.
It's such a cool model.
Like, it is. I have to get it.
40K models ever made. I love it.
Have to get it.
Dark Angels pre-order goes up for the brand new Captain Lazarus. We'll go over his rules later in the show. He's going to be $35. And of course, the brand new Psychic Awakening book, Ritual of the Damned, for $40. And then we have 2 paperbacks coming out of Black Library, Gaunt's Ghosts Anarch for $16, and Vaults of Terra, The Hollow Mountain for $16. A couple of news stories coming out of the good old rumor mill over at Spiky Bits. Fantasy Flight Games announces the cancellation of Star Wars Destiny. So it looks like that game is going away sometime soon.
That's too bad too. It was a good game, but
yeah.
You know how it is. Like, it hits and everybody plays it, and then it kind of dies off.
And Destiny's their card game, right?
It was like a card and a dice game.
Yeah. And they're also doing Star Wars Legion now.
Yeah, Legion's the mini game. That's not going in.
Maybe they're just putting more resources into Legion.
Yeah.
Oh. GW posted some sales number. So it looks like their sales up 50 million compared to the same point last year. Biggest gain ever, and it surpassed their record of 70 million for last year. They're doing real well.
Impressively, The Guardian even carried that story.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like a major news outlet, you know what I mean? Like, they don't cover hobby stuff, but GW is killing it enough. It made them take notice, and they're all getting on the hype train for Eisenhorn.
Yeah.
For the TV show. They're already starting to hype that up.
I mean, I imagine that they're forward thinking enough to where Eisenhorn is going to come out and they'll already have their new distribution facility up and running, and they're already have their new production facility up and running, because when that show comes out, there is going to be so many people that get into this game who have never been in it before, that it's going to be like this, like it's going to blow wide open. It's going to be wild.
Yeah. I almost feel like they need to have some kind of an Eisenhorn board game.
I mean, they probably will. Like, I'm sure that when the show gets closer, they'll make a new model or re-release the special edition model for him, and probably some kind of like starter game.
I mean, they could go the way of the OG cartoons that used to pump like toys. I mean, like literally, they could do a whole movie line if they wanted to.
Right, dude. Okay. There is literally now, because you just said that, there's nothing I want more than Warhammer 40K made by the exact same guys who made the 1980s Transformer the movie. I literally
with
need
the
to see
opening song performed by Pitbull.
Oh yes, it would be amazing.
You got the touch. It's still you got the touch.
It's still you got the touch. Oh my god. Yeah, I would be completely on board for. Granted, it would mean less grimdark, but I would be totally on board for a Hasbro style G.I. Joe Transformers Warhammer 40K. That's just there to pump out.
Heresy is half the battle.
Oh man.
So funny coincidence, you bring up Transformers, because our next bit of hobby news is about Transformers. So WizKids just released a new line with their Deep Cuts minis for some Transformers, and I actually have one right here. So I know if you're listening to the podcast, you can't see it, but it's Optimus Prime. These are, to my eye, about 54 millimeter scale. So they're nice and big, really, really fun to paint. very high quality detail, and just like a lot of the other WizKids models, they come pre-primed. And right now they have Optimus, Megatron, Starscream, and Bumblebee, and those are out for sale now.
They look amazing. They're all Gen, really Gen cool. 1 too.
I got mine from Miniature Market, so I know you can get them there, and other retailers. And apparently they announced a new wave that is going to include Soundwave, Rumble, and more.
Here's a question from an old guy. Would you guys even know what Soundwave was supposed to transform into?
He's a boombox, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen G1, but he was a boombox, and then he has like the tape that jumps out.
He's like a Walkman. Yeah.
He's got like two little dudes who jump out, and they're like cassette players.
It's like a cassette that turns into a cat. I remember that one.
It's like an eagle. It's like an eagle.
Into a bird.
Yeah, it's like a pterodactyl or some shit.
Razorbeak.
Yes. Yes. One of my favorite memes is a picture of a cassette, and it's like my girlfriend asked me why I have a cassette, and it's like Razorbeak fooling people 20 years later.
Because it was actually the toy. I love it. Yeah, it's dope. That's hype.
But yeah, these are all Gen 1. So if you remember that,
the cool ones
look fantastic.
Yeah.
They look really, really good.
I really like Optimus. Megatron is great. He has this like evil, like he's in the middle of his evil Megatron laugh. Like that's why his face is sculpted.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wait, who turns into a gun? I thought Soundwave also
Megatron.
He's like a pistol with a scope on it.
And who holds it? Who holds the gun? Soundwave?
Usually Starscream.
Yeah, Starscream. A few of them do throughout the show because he like magically shrinks
into just a gun.
Yeah. And then it's like he grows exponentially as he turns into a guy. So
and he can be a tank too. I thought he also was a tank, right?
I think later he turned into a tank. Isn't that when he became Galvatron?
Fuck.
I don't remember. I do remember
when he became Leonard Nimoy.
Shockwave that turned into a gun also, but he was more like a futuristic, like laser blaster thing. Like Megatron looked like a legit, like I don't know,
like a straight up pistol that a dude would hold.
Yeah.
Luger pistol.
Yeah. Yeah. Back when the world was a more innocent place.
Yeah.
You could like actually make toy guns.
There you go. He became a tank when you couldn't sell guns to kids anymore.
There we go.
Good shout out chat. That's right. He became like a gun platform when he was Galvatron.
Yeah, like a
howitzer or some shit.
All right. It's all the nerd shit.
All right. We'll go back. Okay.
One more nerd shit. In case you're looking for a gateway drug kind of gun, not gun.
Yeah.
Tell me, I'm interested now.
Demonetized. But a gateway drug kind of game, that Space Marine Labyrinth, like Space Marine Adventures and Into the Necron Labyrinth, that is now also available at Target. It's not just at Barnes and Noble anymore. So keep your eyes open because some of these exclusive like Barnes and Noble games are going to be heading out to some big box stores.
GW's getting ready for the inevitable popularity spike.
Yeah, dude. I can't wait.
Yeah. And it was confirmed by my buddy Dave in the greater Chicagoland area. He saw it in the wild, sent me a picture. So it is there.
That's amazing. So I'm going to talk about LVO again for a second. Long War Doubles, LVO 2020. We are calling for anyone who wants to volunteer to help us with paint judging, theme judging. We will have a rubric, so you'll be able to go off our checklist. There's probably going to be 100 teams, and so we can use any volunteer help that anyone's got.
Yep. If
you feel like you know something, a thing or two about painting, theme, lore, anything like that, just find us on Sunday.
Also, I can incentivize it a little bit because I will have my con exclusive t-shirts at LVO. So if you step forward to help us judge the event and stuff, I will guarantee you a t-shirt as long as it is 3X or smaller. They don't make 4X at the place I get printed. Sorry.
Perfect. So anyone, I put up a couple posts online. You don't even have to respond to them. You just show up and we throw some handies and hugs. You're ready to go. You're in our staff. Also, another PSA is the rule of two. I see a lot of people get this confused. For match play, organized play, for the rule of 3 is 2,000 points. The rule of 2 is for 1,000 points. And then the doubles, you are both constructing a 1,000-point army. So don't forget that. You typically can have 4 of a unit. If like you both have Ultramarines, you could both have 2 Leviathans and have 4. That's fine, but you can't have 6. So don't forget that. Yep. The Sith rule of 2.
Yes.
I got that a couple times on my post. But that's all I have for LVO Long War Doubles 2020. So now we're going to slide into the meat and the potatoes of this podcast, and we're going to start the show. Yep. I was thinking like sliding in, and then I was like visualizing a slip and slide, and I was like, damn, what if there was just like mashed potatoes on a slip and slide?
Just like go down, mouth open, ready to like just
I'm like,
it all.
I'm in. Fuck yeah. So we'll start off with the new 1,000 Suns sneak peek.
Yeah, they didn't actually get a whole lot. They showed off some of their new things. So they're getting these like cults for their different tactics, chapter abilities. What I don't know, they're cults. So they showed off a psychic power for the cult of time, time flux, and warp charge value of 5. If manifested, select one friendly cult of time infantry unit within 6 inches of this psyker. You can return one destroyed model from that unit to the battlefield with all of its wounds remaining, placing it in unit coherency. If the unmodified result of the psychic test was 9 or higher, you can instead return up to D3 destroyed models from that unit to the battlefield with all of their wounds remaining, placed in unit coherency.
Useful.
Yep, definitely has some use there. They showed off the warlord trait for the cult of duplicity. Duplicitous tactician. At the start of the first battle round, before the first turn begins, select up to D3 cult of duplicity units from your army. Remove those units and this warlord from the battlefield, then set them up again following the normal deployment rules for those units and the mission being played. If you redeploy a transport model, all units embarked inside that model remain so when it is set up again.
Word standard, standard redeploy, but it's Zinchian narrative where it's random D3. A lot of new versions of this. Just the warlord in a unit, the warlord in 3 units. Like there's a lot of people who get like static numbers, so it's very Zinchian to keep it D3.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Then we have a relic for the Cult of Change, the Capricious Crest. Once per turn, when a psychic test is taken for a model within 18 inches of a model with this relic, you can change the result of that psychic test as follows. If that model is from your army, you can change any roll of a 1 to a 6. If that model is from your opponent's army, you can change any roll of a 6 to a 1.
Neat.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Neat.
Let's see. And we have one stratagem, 1 CP Risen Rubricae. Use this stratagem when you set up a Rubric Marines unit from your army during deployment. That unit can be set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from the enemy deployment zone and any enemy models. You can only use this stratagem once per battle.
Was it in deployment or during the turn?
During deployment.
So it's 1 unit can infiltrate.
Yes.
That's actually pretty handy. I'm with that.
Yeah. It you get a max unit of Rubric Marines, like set them up somewhere, block out part of the board. It's cool because they don't have scout deploy otherwise, right?
Yeah. Being able to infiltrate is a really powerful ability, guys. Like, when you get them, embrace them. They're really strong. So not everyone could be Marines where every new unit that came out has it. It used to just be scouts, right?
Yeah.
So that's solid. I mean, it gives you a reason to use Rubricae. So now thoughts? What do you guys think about what they've released so far? I
can't really draw much of a conclusion from this other than like, we're going to have cults. Cool.
Yeah. I like the whole thing of the cults.
Cool.
Because it like harkens back to their Legion days. But so fluff wise, I think the cults are really cool, but yeah, I don't know. It gives you more flexibility to play Thousand Suns, I guess.
My biggest fear is that it will do the opposite of grant flexibility and pigeonhole some of these new abilities into a new cult keyword. So it would water down the all these new rules. Like I don't like a new second power being keyed to a new cult or a relic being keyed to a cult. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm cautiously optimistic there because I think it'd be awesome if they fleshed out their codex and they got all these cool cults and they really, you know, like how Dark Eldar do, you know, like if they go that hard, it'd be sick. So cautiously optimistic. Let's jump into, we covered them in the pregame show. We're going to cover them here again. New Grey Knights off of their apology tour. Mike Haspil, how do you feel?
Yeah, so I had to eat crow. So for a while now, people have been like, oh, all hype that in the new ritual book, Psychic Awakening, Grey Knights are going to get buffed. Grey Knights are going to get fixed. And I was hating. I was like, nope, GW is going to do us dirty. I'm not getting my hopes up. And the crow is actually pretty tasty. It's well cooked and pairs well with a 73 Chateau Laiton. So I'm digging in. I am really enjoying the leaks that came out for the Grey Knights. So do you want me to go over the whole thing now?
Let's go over it and just all of them straight up.
All right. So to begin with, we have these things called tides. So the idea is that the Grey Knights have these tides of the warp that they can kind of manipulate to make them ascendant or not. And they're essentially like Space Marine doctrines. The way they're cooler, though, is that you can switch them essentially at will through the use of a psychic power, and you can go back. So where with like doctrines, you can only go forward to the next doctrine. These you can go back and forth. They can be very, very situational. And I'm going to go in the order. There are 4 of them. I'm going to go in the order of the way that I would use them. And granted, I play Grey Knights maybe not the same way that everybody else plays Grey Knights. So
this is dope because you can start the game in one. Whereas, so like it doesn't matter. So the order of how you would use them makes sense. It's not like Space Marines where it's like, this is the order, change it if you want, you know?
Right.
Yeah, that's dope.
So you start one of the tides, and our guess is, it doesn't say this in the leak, but our guess is it's going to be like doctrines, and it's going to be dependent on your entire force being a Grey Knight force. That's our guess, but it doesn't actually say that. I'm kind of hoping that it doesn't say that because I really need sisters in my Grey Knights. But that's more of a wish list thing. Not a gripe. If they say it's got to be all Grey Knights, I'm like, okay, fair enough. That's actually fair. So the first one I want to talk about is called the Tide of Shadows. And that is, whilst this tide is dominant, a unit with this ability receives the benefit of cover to its saving throw, even while it is not entirely on or within a terrain feature. But when resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon against a unit with this ability, if it is entirely on or within a terrain feature, subtract a 1 for a hit roll. So that is really, really huge.
Yeah.
So to break it down, it's like if they're in terrain, they're -1 to hit, +1 to their armor save or to their save. If they're not within, it's still a +1 to their save. So Grey Knight players using this tide don't need to use the prepared positions stratagem. What's interesting though is it doesn't say it doesn't stack.
Well, no, cover saves don't stack.
It's covered. You're right, but you're right.
Yeah, so
and the -1 they'd still get, so it doesn't matter.
It would have to say like an additional, like doesn't say that.
Yeah, so they just don't need that.
No, you don't need to. You don't need to spend CP on prepared positions. You have it, and you have the added bonus of having -1 to hit. If you do put some of your sensitive units in cover, people talked about there's ways to get like the Stormhawk in cover, perhaps for a -2. It's going to be hard with the it fits ruling from LVO. But that is an incredible 4 freezies buff to the Grey Knights army. That's just one of 4 tides.
And what I really like about this, and unfortunately I could not find my old Demon Hunters Codex before this podcast. This harkens back to an old rule they had called the shrouding, which was like essentially if the Grey Knights were, I want to say it was kind of like Night Fight, but it was like 3d6 instead of 2d6.
Yeah, Night Fight was like, yeah, exactly. Like Night Fight, you were 3d6 times 2, and I think these guys were like 3d6 times 3.
Times 3 or something, yeah. If they weren't in range of that, you couldn't shoot at the unit. So it's kind of like shrouding, but more forgiving, you know. So it is kind of really, really cool in that sense. And it harkens back. It's all one of the things I did like about all the stuff that we saw in the league so far is that everything is fluffy. Everything kind of makes sense for Grey Knights to have. The second one I'm going to jump to is called Tide of Convergence. And it is, while that tide is dominant, add 1 to the strength and damage characteristics of psi weapons that infantry models with this ability are equipped with. So psi weapons are silencers and psi cannons. That's what it counts for that. So what's interesting about this, and this one really jumped out at me because it's add 1 to strength. Now this one stacks with Psychic Onslaught, which is a 1 CP strat that Grey Knights have that adds +1 strength and +1 AP to psi weapons. So using this tide along with Psychic Onslaught grants you strength 9 psi cannons.
Yeah. I mean, with AP too, it's really dope. You know, so, I mean, it's huge. I mean, like every psi weapon benefits from that. And in the army. Like in the whole army, like the whole army right at the gate has the +1 strength from the tide.
So strength 6 silencers, which is insane because they put out a lot of shots. Yeah. And their big bane is that they're strength 4, right? Yeah. Well, now they're strength 6.
Right. I mean, if you want to go that route, but like what I was saying is like the whole army has +1 strength, and then you pick the unit you want to play the stratagem on for that extra strength and AP. So all of your psi weapons instantly are wounding on maybe a better number, right? That's not always the case. You know, if you go to strength 5, now you're wounding toughness 4 on 3s. That's great. So it's situational against infantry, but with last cannon level profile going to strength 9, that's the sweet spot. You wound everything on a 3.
Right.
So that's fucking amazing.
It is really, and this one was my favorite takeaway out of the entire league thing so far. Because I was like, strength 9 psi cannons, that's real. That strikes fear in people. You know what I mean? The third one is Tide of Escalation, which is also really good. And honestly, I put this as number 3, but it's really kind of tied for number 2. While this tide is dominant, when a unit with this ability and the Rites of Banishment ability manifests a smite psychic power, and it is not resisted, that power inflicts 1 additional mortal wound on the target. So that is 2 smite, 2 mortal wound smite, army wide. Well, on a unit, but it's army wide. And against anything with a demon keyword, it's double. Mm-hmm. So you're talking 4 smite.
Is it double? Wait, so is it double +1 or is it +1 then double? I think it's double.
Oh man, I think it's just double.
I don't
think it's double +1.
I think it is. I think it's because if their wording is double the damage, is it say double the damage of all smites?
I don't remember.
Typically, most people that I've been playing with,
I think it's strength 4. I think it's strength. I think it's not strength 4. It's 4 mortal wound smite.
So I mean, either way, I'll take either. Like,
yeah,
you'll peel through somebody super quick with like all your smites always rolling a 5 or 6 if it was D3 anyway. So I'll take the 4 or the 3. I'll be happy.
Yeah. So the one thing with this is that one of my wish list things that I'm still hoping is in the book that wasn't leaked at is that they have the characters.
Oh, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. That's right. Your rule is it's 3. It's not double. When you're going up against a demon, it manifests as a 3. And so that's why it's a 4. I was getting confused. It's not double. It's the straight up 3.
I messed it up. I said double.
When you go
but
again,
you're right. It's 3+1.
Yeah. Demons don't like it.
Yeah, so it's angry. One of the things I want to see out of this is that the normal characters, like librarians, brother captains, grandmasters, and stuff, cast normal smite, and the baby smite is everyone else. Because I believe that's the way the Thousand Suns work. And I think it should be the same rule for the Grey Knights.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little different because like the Thousand Suns don't. It's not like we have this like list of units that just manifest powers. Mm-hmm. It's like everything is attached to like we have this sorcerer sergeant who does. We have this blah who does. It's not like innately every unit does. And even like when you go to the demon part of it, like horrors manifest it. But they don't have the special rule to reduce the number they roll on. And if you have brimstone horrors, you can only manifest it on 1 dice. So like we have a lot of mitigation built into ours. Our strongest rule for chaos is that, literally, I think you have the same rule, is that it's always a 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like,
yes,
it
doesn't increase with subsequent.
Yeah. So yes, our Billy badasses, like all of our characters do manifest full up smite. And I think GW might have been, I don't know. GW probably thought about it like, well, if somebody has like 6 strike squads, that's 6 smites. That's so powerful.
It could be, well, with this tide, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I could see them just going, nah, man, you get what you get, you know, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Like honestly,
this was a wish list thing. If they throw that in the book, I'm ecstatic. If it's not there, I'm okay.
Yep.
Then last but not least, and this is for me, because I don't think it adds a lot, and that's just because of my play style. But this last tide, and I got to flip over because it's split it over 2 pages on my thing. It's called Tide of Fury. And what it does on here is that it's whilst that tide is dominant, when resolving an attack made by a nemesis weapon by an infantry model with this ability, you can reroll a wound of 1. And the only reason I put that as my last one, it is actually very strong. The only reason I put that as my last one is that my Grey Knights tend not to get into close combat. But when they do, they're already wrecking whatever they're in close combat with. They're already wrecking face.
It's already too late. Like the game has gone well for you. Like,
yeah. So to me, I'm like, okay, you're buffing, at that point, you're buffing guys that would already have wiped that unit anyway. So that's why I put it last, because I was just like, it's cool. Yeah. It's great.
It's useful, but like, am I ever going, I mean, like for me to want to like leave the Psi buff, the smite buff, or the shrouding buff is so hard for me to fathom that like I would leave those buffs.
So that's one that I'll probably never use, to be very honest. Especially when you hear about some of the other stuff that's coming up. So it's a psychic power to switch from those. So one of the interesting things people were talking about is you could enter something with like the smite tide ascendant during the psychic phase, cast all your smites, and then cast the psychic power to change into the psi weapon shooting for the rest of the phase, for the rest of the turn. It's going to be very situational. It's really, really cool. You can manipulate it. And that's what I really like about it, is you can be like, hey, my shooting's not really doing that much to this guy. Let me go back to the smite one, which is something you can't do with doctrines, which is why I think these are really cool. We do have, they did talk about a new psychic discipline that the Grey Knights have access to, which is really, really cool. And right now we only really know of one of those powers. It's called Empyrean Domination, and it's basically on a warp charge value of a 7. You can gain 1 command point.
And for Grey Knights, that's a 6.
That is a 6. That is correct. And then they have 2 stratagems that have leaked. well, that they leaked, I should say. One is called Empiric Surge, and it's use this stratagem in your psychic phase after a Grey Knight Psyker unit from your army has manifested a psychic power. Until the end of that phase, when a psychic test is taken for a friendly Grey Knight Psyker unit within 6 inches of that unit, add 1 to the total.
Yep.
So
that puts them in line with some of the Space Marine stuff, and that means things like Vortex of Doom, even Super Smites, or I guess you guys don't get Super Smites because you suck.
No.
I gotta say, you guys are just so pathetic. I mean, like, I don't know, 13 2-damage flat smites is so fucking weak.
Dude, that's
so weak. So I mean, maybe you can toss a Vortex of Doom and you can save your second phase.
Yeah, or so, whatever you're going to want to cast that for sure. Easy power, first, and then anybody else.
I mean, makes
within
sense.
6.
Well, you're gonna cast the Regenerator first, because that's the first thing I do every turn. Is like on a 6, I get this power back. I get a command point back. Oh, I successfully got a command point back, and now I can do this next thing. And it does it say you have to immediately do the next second power?
No, it just says until the end of that phase.
Yeah, fucking hell yeah, dude. That's super strong. It's
really good.
It's real good.
Really, really good. And we don't even know what else is coming. That's what's really great about this is the stuff that they released. I would honestly be happy with if we only got the stuff that they showed us.
But there's more. Yeah, there's going to be more. It's going to be full suite.
Just the ability to have that many flat damage smites. Especially with like Chaos being such a strong faction in the meta right now, and they're utilizing a lot of things that have the demon keyword. Like that is a huge buff. So like they're gonna come out. I don't know if they'll like.
I mean, fucking Lord D's are the bane of so many people's existence right now, and you're just like 4 damage, 4 damage, 4 damage, dead.
Yeah,
like you're literally like 3 rolls of 5, you kill the Lord D. Like that is the fastest dead Lord D in the history of mankind. Like that's ridiculous. And those things are the bane of people's existence right now, in Chaos. Like, and Smite bypasses a lot of these other weird rules. So like, this is powerful. Just this, like you said, if this is all you get, your shit got fucking good.
If this is all we got, I'm actually happy.
What about the stratagem for the Deep Strike one that we were talking about earlier?
Yeah, so that's the other stratagem that's out that they released. And this one's a little controversial. They may need to FAQ this because earlier in the pregame we were actually having a discussion about this and kind of going back and forth.
There's it's teleport strike, one of their faction rules. It's so everybody can use it.
It's called dynamic insertion. And use this stratagem. It's 1 CP. Sorry. Use this stratagem when a Grey Knight unit from your army is set up on the battlefield using the teleport strike ability. You can set up that unit anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 3 inches away from any enemy models instead of 9 inches. If you do, you cannot charge with that unit in this turn. So it's a bit of a give and take. I know Wyatt was complaining that you're not allowed to charge afterwards.
Yeah, one thing I've even said it on the podcast multiple times, I've said that factions that heavily rely on Terminator units as their bread and butter should have an ability that lets them deep strike closer than 9 inches. And I always bring up Grey Knights and I always bring up Deathwing. And so I was really frustrated because it's like Games Workshop is like, hey, here's this thing you wanted, but we're going to suck all the fun out of it.
Yeah, you fucked up because you didn't say and still charge because that's not really a thing we think about anymore.
That is true. I mean, like they were just like, well, yeah, this guy really wants it. We'll let him do it. And then I didn't say I should be able to charge still. You're right.
Yeah, you fucked that up. Yep. That's on you. You should take full.
Probably just my Instagram stuff has hashtag suck at GW on it now.
Yeah. No, I think it's a dope stratagem for the units because like the thing we were talking about is like I think that the Grey Knight Codex is so old that this is kind of like you guys remember there's 2 lines of keywords like where it's like faction and general pretty much, and GW was always planning on doing something with those, and it wasn't until the Demon Codex came out and then they had a relief in FAQ and say like these stratagems are for faction demon keyword only. That was like that's like the first and only time still to date that a set of stratagems, and you have to go to the FAQ to have that. I know lots of people who still play basement 40k who still deep strike Mortarion. Like, And then my buddies will hit me up on tactics like, how do you defend against that? I was like, oh, because it's not legal.
Yeah.
They're like, what? I was like, yeah, it's like I was like 15 minutes after the Demon Codex dropped that I got FAQ'd. And so that showed that GW always has, plans for like these lines of abilities and keywords. And so I think so the Great Codex, I think, has kind of like an older interpretation of those. So currently a lot of people are saying like not every unit has access to this stratagem because of the keyword lines. And
Right. So
it's messy right now, and look for an FAQ like you always get to make it not messy.
Yeah. I'm sure there'll be clarification, but for the time being, in so many other representations of this rule, the wording is the same exactly or very similar. And anything that is set up in a teleportarium is basically using the teleport strike ability.
Yeah.
So Mike was saying earlier that you can take a squad, spend 1 CP to put it in a teleportarium where normally it would not be able to do so naturally, like a squad of Terminators. And then when it arrives from reserve on the table, that squad is using the teleport strike ability. The Deathwing have a very similar thing with one of their new rules, the way that that's worded. Even like general Space Marines, I think the Death Watch have a teleportarium stratagem they can do as well that's worded exactly the same way.
Yeah.
So there are precedents, but currently he said basically gets the ability because they don't literally get the ability. And that's the hang up. So
it does not say the words teleport strike, even though they are worded exactly.
Well, the stratagem doesn't say it gains the ability teleport strike. And so that's the hang up because we want to obviously put the flamer guys, put them 3 inches away from somebody and shoot them.
I was looking at using like Suicide Squad, Purgation Squads, and just dropping in 4 incinerators, like right in somebody's grill.
Yeah.
That's 46, at incinerators, like right away. It's like, boom. And they got to stand there and get killed. But I mean, you can still do the same thing with 10 paladins, which is a lot more unpalatable to your enemy, but it's also expensive as hell. Whereas with a Purgation Squad, it's really cheap.
No, it's true.
I think it's less than 120.
So I do empathize with Wyatt's sadness, but simultaneously, that's only because he told me he was sad. I read this stratagem and I was like, that is a flexible AF stratagem. And they will clean this shit up, guys, because the intent is clear. And I imagine if like people on the internet are still talking about like how you can't do it or you can do it, pretty much anybody who is taking their position as a tournament organizer seriously will see that you're supposed to be able to do it and will say at our event you can. And then the FAQ will come out and it will confirm that, and we will literally feel silly for even discussing it. Yep. But when I see this stratagem, I see a toolbox AF stratagem. Like,
it is really cool.
It's like you can't charge, right? Fine. But like when you play against me and you got a bunch of deep striking units, believe that I'm going to use my units, Haspil, as cleverly as possible to triangulate and create little zones where you don't get to ever deep strike where you want, right? And so don't get it all in your head that like a unit has to deep strike and charge to be good. That's a bonus if you hit that 9 for sure. And some people get to change that number, manipulate that number, whatever. But at the end of the day, saying like, I don't follow the same rules as you and I have to sacrifice this restriction to do it is incredibly flexible for like a Big 10 block of paladins. Let's say the Billy badasses who say, I'm going to drop in here and I'm going to be in this building that's 7 inches away from you guys, and you thought you were going to zone me off this objective over here, and I wasn't going to be able to do this thing, but now I'm safely in this box behind this wall. You can't fucking see me. And now I'm going to just sit here for a turn, and I've positioned my dudes in a place you can't ignore nor interact with. And then I'm going to step out of the box, shoot your whole fucking army, and collapse the left side of your table. Like it, and that's just one scenario, right? Like not following the rules is spicy to me. And that stratagem lets you not follow the rules. So it's useful. It's just,
it's definitely useful.
It just sucks that it's not Raptorial Host Warp Talons that can, that we just got that, like, Chaos just got 25% cheaper Warp Talons that can, 3d6 plus 2 charge and touch everything in your army.
If you're talking about Dark Angels, my frown is going to turn upside down.
Yeah, don't worry.
I'm just like, I feel bad because like one of the funnest parts about playing Grey Knights is you get these like paladin dudes that are like that's like your guys, your goon squad that's going to go in there and mess shit up. And the 9-inch deep strike has always been sort of a holdback to them, because like if you've been playing Grey Knights or Terminator troops in general for many editions, you're just like, yeah, I'm going to put my spot like right in front of my target, and I'm going to roll my scatter dice, and oh, look at that, it's on target. And then you make the charge.
Oh, yes.
Or they end up inside of a wall and all die. Like that's the risk reward. And so that aspect of Grey Knights and Deathwing is something that I really miss from old editions. And they come out with a 3-inch deep strike, and I'm like, fuck yeah. And then you read that second sentence and it's like, but you can't charge. And I'm like, the fucking GW fun focus. Strike again. Like, thanks, guys.
I want to shout out the chat.
It's the tactical flexibility of the rule, but it still makes me sad that I can't deep strike 3 inches away and charge with paladins.
I want to shout out somebody in the chat. Whisksy, Psy Cannon, Pally Blob, Astral aiming out of a magic box.
Yeah, you can still definitely do that.
I'm just saying, it's like now you can put them anywhere you want. Sit inside of a fucking box. Go +2 strength, +1 AP, shoot out of the fucking box with bolter drill, and be somewhere that the enemy did not think you're allowed to be. Like, that is, to me, that's just sick. Like, I think it's sick. But
it definitely has flexibility, and it is cool.
But these guys don't have 2 or 3 up invulnerables and shit. They're not like, honestly, like, probably not trying to put these guys in combat anyway. Like, even though every like Grey Knight guy has like a cool cutty blade or whatever, like a stabby weapon, like at the end of the day, you have a bunch of 1 wound guys and 2 wound guys who have 5 up invulnerables. Like, so they are shooting army, with good saves. So they're not what's the unit you're gonna end up talking about here in a second?
Oh, with the Deathwing?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get there.
No, what's the name of that unit? What's the name of that unit?
Oh, the Deathwing Knights?
Yeah, the Deathwing Knights. They're not Deathwing Knights.
Yeah.
And you could buff them to 4 up with a psychic power. Because that was the whole dilemma before, is people could be, oh well, I can buff this guy to a 2 up, and it's like, no, you couldn't. It always said the maximum is 3 up, and people would cite order of operations, and I'm like, that's not a thing in 40K, man. You can't just do that. But I'm so happy they fact that, so we don't have to argue about it anymore.
Yeah. Like, realistically, I don't even know the stats of a paladin. What is he, like 2 attacks with a weapon that's probably like AP 3 D3 damage?
Let me pull it up.
Like, I mean, I'm talking a bunch of junk, like I know how powerful these guys are, but like, when's the last time I fucking played against some paladins?
Yeah. You haven't seen it.
3 wounds, 3 attacks?
Attacks.
3 wounds, 3 attacks.
Yeah, and it's like you can give them all the halberds or the staves, which is like, or maybe like one guy can take a stave. I forget
one guy can take a stave.
Yeah, because the stave increases your invul save.
Yeah.
They can take the force hammers if you really want to like smack some shit down.
Definitely don't. Are they -1 to hit? I don't want to be that. I don't want to be -1.
Their hammers actually aren't listed on this data sheet.
4 attacks on the first round.
No, the hammers are -1. Yeah. The hammers are -1 to hit.
So
I think the halberd and the stave is like the best.
I usually run them with halberds.
Is halberd +1 strength at least?
It's +1 strength, the -2 AP, D3 damage.
Yeah, that's dope. So they have 4 attacks each on the charge, or on the first round of combat, right? How many points are they? And did they get a point reduction in chapter approved?
They probably did get a point reduction in chapter. I don't know. I didn't buy the new chapter approved because I was so like kind of lackluster about it.
Because to give them our full diligence, because I think paladins are going to be really good. 440 points for 10 dudes. Ooh, 44.
Yeah. They're really expensive.
For 3 wounds, though, that's fine. For 3 wounds, that's dope.
We can come.
And you throw an apothecary near them.
Are they weapon skill 2 or 3?
Weapon skill 3. The sergeant is weapon skill 2.
Do they have access to reroll 1 auras?
With a captain, right? Captain gives them reroll 1 stat.
Do they have that?
Isn't that what a brother captain does, Mike?
Rights of battle type thing?
Yeah.
They have rights of battle.
Oh, sick. So basically, do they have? So they're going to be like +1 strength. So they're wounding most things on 3s, right? So they can clear some shit.
Yeah, when we start talking about Deathwing, we can make a comparison between the two. There's a trade-off because the Paladins have shooting weapons and Deathwing Knights don't.
Yeah. Though this unit can clear about 23 to 25 models of 4-up save model equivalent.
Don't forget they have Bolter Discipline.
Mhm.
Don't forget that they also have like potentially Strength 9 Psy Cannons.
Right. No, I just want to go off of like what else, like what am I missing if they're not in combat? Like, and they can do some shit. Like they can like I say they kill about 23 to 25 chaff level infantry models. And even with people need to have like a 3-up save before you even start really getting saves from these guys. And even then you're only saving like 7 of those. So like you're still killing almost 20 guys, like 18 guys. So they can clear and a D3 damage. So like even multi-wound guys, and they should pretty much kill, like almost any tank, I think, right? Even if they're wounded on 5s. Let's see. What does it look like? So get like 12 wounds through. They only save 4, 8 D3s. Yeah. So the Paladins, in addition to their prolific firepower, they can pretty much kill most units in close combat that are infantry based, and just about any, and they can kill just about any tank as well in close combat. So like very powerful unit for 440 points, especially when you, we haven't even factored the Psy Cannons in to that point tag yet, but it's a solid unit, and I can see myself bringing that unit out if I was playing Grey Knights. A lot of these new rules.
Yeah, and if you're rocking Drago, they get to reroll all missed hits. So it's not just rights.
No, it's dope, especially like I said, if they're hiding in a box, they're pouring all their bullets out of the box, then they're stepping out of the box and they're fucking shit up. Like that's a great unit, especially even if they're in the box and someone's got indirect fire, you're like in the box and you're like, oh, hey, I'm also -1 to hit in this box. Like, oh yeah. No, it's dope. And they also have other powers like Hammerhand and stuff like that. So
yeah, there are no slouches. I mean, and they can pull it off. And of course, Terminators can do a very similar thing. They're just not, not as tough. They'll die easier.
No, it's
and they can't take as many weapons, obviously.
For 440, I can get behind that unit. Like
yeah, it is a solid unit.
So
yeah.
Cool.
I'm sorry.
Grey Knights.
Okay.
Is that it for Grey Knights? Is that our last strategy?
No. We have more. There's
what?
more. Yeah. So you get to take a new relic. And at first I was kind of like ho-hum on this relic, but then I was like, it does what it does, especially if you're going against chaos that's casting a lot, right? So this is called the Stave of Supremacy. It goes to a model with a Nemesis warding stave only. So those of you with the old, 5th edition Grey Knight still that had warding staves on all your guys, you can now reuse, you can pull those models out and dust them off. What it does is when a psychic test is taken for an enemy model within 18 inches of a model with this relic, that enemy model suffers perils on any roll of a double. So that's just kind of neat to go, hey, you know what? I'm going to take this thing. And now every time you're casting your 1.5 billion powers, any double, you take perils.
No, I'm with it. You can pop some psychers with that. People losing a psyker to perils sucks because he explodes.
And then one of the things, Grey Knights got chaplains in this last version, and I never even bothered to model one. I was just like, who cares? I'm never going to use chaplains because, again, I feel like chaplains really shine when they're in close combat or buffing a unit for close combat. And again, my Grey Knights don't make it into close combat. And when they do, they don't really need a buff. They kill whatever they hit. So again, I was kind of like, don't need the chaplains. But now they give us these chaplains have these new litanies. And one of them is called the Recitation of Projection. If this litany is inspiring, select one friendly Grey Knight unit within 6 inches of this model and add 6 inches to the range characteristic of bolt weapons and psi weapons that unit is equipped with. So imagine that hypothetical paladin unit we had. I'm sorry about that. And then throw one of these chaplains next to it, and it extends it by 6 inches.
That's good.
Nuts.
That's good.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then you pair it with, say, a couple of stratagems like psi bolt ammunition, psychic onslaught that, that tied. All of a sudden, you have some ridiculously strong things.
Oh no, you can vape some shit with that for sure. I love that ability. Range extender is real good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So,
yeah.
And like I said, I feel like if this is all we get, that book is worth it already. But we still don't know what 5 of the other psychic powers are. We only know 2 of the new stratagems. Hopefully it's not just 2, but if it is, that's fine. And I think this is amazing. I'm very excited. I was joking earlier in the pre-show that I went into my warehouse in my basement, bypassing the Ark of the Covenant and blowing dust off my case to pull out my Grey Knights and start laying them out on the table so I can repair all the chipping and battle
January 15th on the year of our Lord 2020.
20, yes.
Mike Haspil is playing Grey Knights again.
The boys are back in town.
On this podcast, it has happened. You guys, if you've been listening to our podcast since day one, even when it was the podcast that shall not be named, I can't remember if a time Haspil was still playing his Grey Knights.
Yeah, and one thing that is kind of missing conspicuously is there was no, we were talking about this earlier, there's no mention of Primaris Grey Knights. So my guess is there's something wrong with Primaris Marines. That's my guess.
Call just, he didn't get CC'd on that.
Call doesn't know the Grey Knights exist.
To tell those guys, so he's on a need to know basis right now.
But my guess would be that if GW is doing something, they're doing something fluff wise, that the Grey Knights know that they don't trust the Primaris Marines for some reason. So if I was working on fluff at GW, that would be my move, is that the Primaris Marines are not all they're cracked up to be. There's something wrong with them. And it may not be something catastrophic. It may just be that there's something wrong with them enough that Grey Knights don't trust them. But that's why I think that out of every Space Marine chapter, the Grey Knights are not allowed to take Primaris stuff. I think that's why. I think it's a fluff reason.
It's possible, yeah. I mean, it took him a while for the Dark Angels to accept him. And even now, Lazarus is like the first Primaris Marine to be allowed in the Inner Circle. And he was in the Inner Circle before. He just underwent the Rubicon Primaris. It's not like they found a new guy and let him in. So still no Primaris in the Inner Circle.
Oof. Kicked him out of the club.
No, he's still in there. It's just that like they didn't get a new Primaris captain. They didn't invite him in. Lazarus was already in the Inner Circle, but he underwent the Rubicon Primaris. That's why he's the first one. So he's in by like default, basically.
So he's in the Lias Club.
Yeah.
All right. Grey Knights are dope. I'm happy. It makes me happy.
Happy.
Dark Angels, are they dope, Wyatt?
Oh, so dope. I'm so excited to talk about Dark Angels. They got so much cool stuff. First off, we got a super doctrine. And at first look, it's not that spicy, not that exciting, right? It's in the Devastator doctrine, and it extends the range of certain weapon types. So if it's heavy or rapid fire, it extends it 6. And if it's assault or pistol, it extends it 3. So right off the bat, you're like, oh, well, that's not as cool as like ignoring the movement penalty for heavy weapons and rerolling ones, or ignoring cover and doing multiple damage to vehicles, or being able to fall back and shoot, blah, blah, blah. Or what's the Ultramarines one? Pretend it's like you don't move when you shoot or whatever. But it does proc the normal chapter tactic for the Dark Angels, which is if you sit still, you reroll all hit rolls of 1, which in some ways is better than some of the other chapters' super doctrines. So, like, for example, the Iron Hands, they ignore the penalty for moving and shooting heavy weapons, and they reroll ones to hit whilst firing heavy weapons. Whereas Dark Angels reroll all ones for all shooting attacks if they sit still. So like the super doctrine is not the craziest thing.
But when you add the range extender to that, in some situations, like you said, it's even better.
Right. So for some heavy weapons, like your plasma cannons, which is bread and butter for the Dark Angels, it allows you to sit still, whereas before you might have to walk forward to get into threat range, which allows you to use your chapter tactic more of the time, which is kind of neato. We get our own litany, as well as the generic ones. And it says, if this litany is inspiring, when a friendly Dark Angels infantry unit that is within 6 inches of this unit and did not advance or fall back this turn is chosen to shoot with, models in that unit can shoot with ranged weapons as if they had remained stationary. So this is pretty cool with the addition of generic stratagems like big guns never tire. You are allowing multiple units to walk and still shoot their weapons with no penalty, because basically they're pretending they stood still, which again allows you to use your chapter tactic. I could see myself definitely using this like on multiple units of dreadnoughts or on hellblasters, things like that, so they can move and be flexible but still shoot and use their chapter tactic, which lets them be pretty self-sufficient. Some new warlord traits. These are split up into Deathwing and Ravenwing. So for the Deathwing, we have Lay Low the Mighty. You can reroll wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons against character units or units with a wound characteristic of 8 or more by models in friendly Deathwing units whilst their unit is within 6 of this warlord.
Is there a cat going crazy in your house? I think there's a Robbie B in spirit here tonight.
Yeah, Robbie B is like whispering to my cats, like, "Hey, fuck shit up." We have right when inexorable. When resolving an attack made against this warlord, an unmodified wound roll of 1 through 3 always fails, irrespective of any abilities the weapon or the model making that attack may have. So he has built-in transhuman physiology. That's pretty cool. And this one is called Watched. I don't know. Some of this might be subject to change because a lot of this is paraphrased. Once per battle in your opponent's psychic phase, this warlord can attempt to resist one psychic power in the same manner as a psyker by taking a Deny the Witch test, even if your warlord is not within 24 inches of the enemy model. When taking that Deny the Witch test, do not roll a die. It automatically passes. And this is kind of cool. I mean, it is a warlord trait and it's once per battle, but you can definitely be like, oh, I see your Magnus is trying to cast this really clutch spell and he has like plus 18 to his thing because of all your dumb Sneechian chaos stuff. You just don't get to do that. Suck it. We have some Ravenwing warlord traits, impeccable mobility. Whilst they are within 6 inches of this warlord, models in a Ravenwing unit from your army do not suffer the penalty for moving and firing heavy weapons or for advancing and firing assault weapons. It's kind of cool. Tactically flexible. Once per battle, at the start of the battle round, you can select a combat doctrine that is not currently active until the end of the battle round when resolving an attack made by a model in a friendly Ravenwing unit within 6 inches of this warlord. You can treat the chosen doctrine as being active instead of the currently active doctrine. Ugh. It's a really long-winded way of saying, like, you can just choose whatever doctrine you want. Outrider. At the start of the first battle round, before the first turn begins, this warlord and one other Raven Wing unit from your army can move up to 12 inches as if it were your movement phase. They cannot advance as part of this move. Those units must end those moves more than 9 inches away from any enemy models. If both players have units that can move before the first turn begins, the player who's taking the first turn moves their units first. And then we get into some stratagems. And this is a tenuous list of what they're supposed to be getting as far as generic Adeptus Astartes ones. So things like Duty Eternal, Veteran Intercessors, Fury the First, Hunter Slayer Missile, Rapid Fire, Big Guns Never Tire, Hero of the Chapter, Steady Advance, Transhuman Physiology, Vengeance of the Machine Spirit, Honored by Caliban, Target Sighted, Boltstorm, Adaptive Strategy, and Gene Rot Might. Let's see. There's a rumor of a +1 toughness stratagem for Deathwing unit. Let's see. I'm going to save the big one for last, and we'll go over some of these other ones. High speed focus for 1 CP. Use this stratagem when a Ravenwing unit from your army is chosen as a target for an attack made with a ranged weapon until the start of your next movement phase. Models in that unit benefit from the Jink ability, even if they didn't advance. That's pretty cool because your Ravenwing constantly wants that 4++, and so they're constantly having to like advance all over the place. So if you really need some clutch shooting where you don't want to take the penalty for advancing and firing, say, Plasma Talons, you can play this stratagem. Full Throttle for 1 CP. Use the stratagem in your movement phase. After moving a Ravenwing unit from your army, you can make a second move with that unit this phase. That unit can advance as part of the move if it has not already advanced this phase. The unit cannot shoot or charge this turn. Let's see. Target Guidance, 1 CP. Use this stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Select one enemy unit within 12 inches and visible to a Ravenwing Landspeeder unit from your army until the end of that phase when resolving an attack made by a model and a friendly Dark Angels unit against that unit. You can re-roll the hit roll. Outnumbered but never outmatched, 1 CP. Use the stratagem in the fight phase when a Deathwing unit from your army is chosen to fight with. Until the end of that phase, add 1 to the attack characteristic of models in that unit if that unit targets an enemy unit containing 10 or more models.
Any Deathwing keyword?
It's, Deathwing unit. This is a Deathwing specific. So it's like if you're a Deathwing Knights, charge a unit of 30 boys or 11.
10. It said 10 or more. It didn't even say outnumbered. It said 10 or more.
Yeah. You get +1 attack. Renito. Evasive Assault, 1 CP. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when a Ravenwing Biker unit from your army that made a charge move or was charged this turn is chosen as the target for an attack until the end of that phase. Models in that unit have a 5+ invulnerable save. Pretty cool.
And
then the big boy stratagem, the one I am very excited about, Combined Assault for 2 CP. Use this stratagem at the end of your movement phase when you set up a Deathwing unit from your army using the Teleport Strike ability. You can set up that unit wholly within 6 inches of a friendly Ravenwing Biker unit that has not advanced this turn, and more than 6 inches from any enemy models. Any models that cannot be set up in this way are destroyed.
Did you just say that I can set up 6 inches away from bad guys and still charge?
Yes.
But as long as I'm also within 6 inches to a maximum of a friendly Ravenwing Biker unit.
Yes.
I could see the play there.
Yeah, and this is we were kind of talking about this in our tactics class earlier. It's there's basically 2 ways to do this. One is to take Samael on Jetbike. Because the keyword it's a bolded keyword on the stratagem, just like Deathwing is bolded. So it's Ravenwing Biker and not Ravenwing Bike Squad. So if it was Ravenwing Bike Squad, it would have to be the datasheet unit. But Ravenwing Biker is the keywords, and Samael has that as well as attack bikes, bike squads, and Black Knights. They all have those 2 keywords. And so with the ability for a Raven Wing unit to move and then move again. You can cover a lot of distance. And basically you just have to get within a window of about 10 to 12 inches away from your intended target. And then you can place your Deathwing Terminators or Deathwing Knights 6 inches away and charge. And the reason I like Samael for this is because his set Warlord trait lets all Dark Angels reroll charges.
Mm-hmm. And he also lends the reroll ones ability.
Yeah, and he's also basically a captain. So
he's like two things you really want on top of that sweet stratagem. So he's the number. We went back and forth today on different options. And since you can't do this to the second turn anyway, it's not a turn one deep strike. You still have to follow the standard rules for reinforcement. For dropping in. So this is turn 2. You've got a minute to get where you need to be going. And
exactly.
He can double move, right? With a stratagem.
Yes.
So like all you have to do is get to like a good position midfield behind a wall. He's a jet bike. It's not hard. And not be targeted as a character anyway. That's easy. He just has to sit there on turn 1 and be in a good forward position, but not too crazy, still a little cagey. Because you get to go right where you want to go. And he goes, 14 inches?
So 14, and then with a double move is 28.
So he gets to go 28 inches. The Knights can set up to 6 away from him and charge, and he can let them reroll the charge. So you're basically without any buffs, no chaplain buffs, nothing. You're saying, I have manipulated the dice roll I need from that busted ass 9 with a reroll, which fails all the time, because 9s reroll in any combination of the dice are like 7s, but that's not always the situation. A 6 with a full reroll, or a command point to reroll the 1 you got. That's almost 9 times out of 10, right?
Yeah,
that's 9 times out of 10. And this unit has access to some of these. There's some new units that they're saying, like there's an ancient, right? Part of the combo that you were talking about.
Yeah. So that plays into one of the relic options. Before we get there, the other way to do this, if you don't want to use Samael, is you can take like a Talon Master or Samael in a Land Speeder, so you can have that Land Speeder profile. But then you would have to take a biker tax unit. So if you want a cheapy unit, it would have to be like an attack bike or a biker squad.
The cheapest way to do it with the most buffs is Samael Jetpack, though. Right.
Yeah, cheapest way to do it.
But also with a lot of rules that we want. So
right.
If this was like a turn 1 situation, I would be looking at other things that move faster. Like I'd be looking at the things that can move before the game, then double move. But no, I don't give a fuck. This is a turn 2 scenario.
Exactly. So there is a banner. I think it's called the Banner of Penitence that a Deathwing Ancient can have. And it is a 6-inch aura, 5 up, feel no pain. Like just 5 up, feel no pain against everything.
For Deathwing specifically?
Yeah, for Deathwing units.
So here we go. Got a unit of guys with a 2 up, 3 up, and a 5++++.
Yeah, and then the Deathwing the Deathwing Ancient can just deep strike 9 inches away from your target behind those guys and give them the aura. You could also do an Apothecary if you wanted, so you can heal those dudes. You can do a Librarian in Terminator armor, or a Jump Pack Librarian and just have him deep strike. And there is a existing psychic power for the Dark Angels called Righteous Repugnance, which is any Dark Angels unit you target, and it gives them reroll all hits, reroll all wounds in the fight phase. So you can buff them with that if you want to, but it's a Warp Charge 7, so there is a little bit of a margin.
12-inch range on top of it. You can't really rely on it.
Yeah, but it's a nice luxury to have if you get it off. So they're going to get stuff like Adamantine Mantle, Artificer Armor, Mastercrafted Weapon, Arbiter's Gaze Relic. When resolving an attack made by a model with this relic, ignore negative hit roll modifiers and ballistic skill modifiers. When firing Overwatch, the bearer successfully hits using their ballistic skill rather than on a 6. And that is 2 separate sentences. So it ignores negative hit modifiers and ballistic skill modifiers. And when you fire Overwatch, it's on their ballistic skill rather than a 6.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so that's like, I imagine maybe like an optic they slap on their helmet or something. It's not a weapon. It doesn't replace one of their weapons. It's just a relic they can have. They have the Angel's Ambit, increase the range of a model with its relic's aura abilities by 3 inches.
Which is some standard Space Marine shit right now.
Yeah, pretty cool one. I mean, like, I have to pay 1 CP to do that every turn I want it, and that's just a relic you can have. Bolts of Judgment. This is their cool little, bolt round that everybody's been getting, right? When that model shoots with the weapon, you make 1 shot. If you do, that model, let's see, it has armor penetration of -2 and a damage characteristic of 3 for that attack. When resolving that attack, a wound roll of 6+ is successful if the target is a vehicle or monster. Otherwise, the wound roll of a 2+ is successful. So doesn't do as cool of a thing as like Quake Bolts that we talked about, I think last week or week before last. But I can see a use for this on, say, a lieutenant with Mastercrafted Stalker Bolt Rifle, or a captain in Phobos armor with his cool little bolt carbine that can target characters, where you're hitting on a 2 and wounding on a 2, unless it's a vehicle or a monster. And it's like 3 flat damage. Like, that's pretty cool to be able to do that every shooting phase. And of course, digital weapons, which everybody's been getting. And then we can talk about Lazarus, the new captain character. So he's equipped with Enmity's Edge, bolt pistol, and frag and crack grenades. Weapon skill 2, ballistic skill 2, 6 wounds, 5 attacks, 3-up save, 4-up invul save for an Iron Halo. Enmity's Edge is his sword. It's strength +2, -4 AP, D3 damage. When resolving an attack made with this weapon against a Psyker unit, you can reroll the wound and you can reroll the damage roll. And then he's got the Spirit Shield Helm. When a model in a friendly Dark Angels unit within 6 inches of this model would lose a wound as the result of a mortal wound, roll 1d6, adding 1 to the result if it is this model. That wound on a 5-up. It's like a 5-up, feel no pain against mortal wounds.
Yeah, for him, a 4.
Yeah, and you can add 1 if it's himself. And then he's got an ability, Intractable Will. When this model isn't destroyed within 1 inch of any enemy units, it can immediately fight as if it were the fight phase before being removed from play. This ability is not cumulative with the Astartes banner or the Only in Death Does Duty and Stratagem.
Yep.
So he's got a
free fight twice when he dies.
Yeah.
So it's 2 CP, free ability.
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
And I think that's everything.
Which is dope. So big takeaway from that is Deathwing Knights can charge people reliably and are super hard to interact with.
Yeah, with our existing rules, and the ability to have these new things, so like Deathwing Knights, deep striking 6 inches away, charging in there with a rerollable charge, like, man, that's spicy. And even if you fail that charge, or maybe you can't do it, maybe they're screened out entirely by infiltrators or something. They do have access to transhuman physiology now, and they have an existing ability that's called like Fortress of Shields or Wall of Shields, some wording like that, which is a -1 to be wounded
in close combat.
Yeah, in close combat. So you can play transhuman to protect them from shooting, and say, like, if you're in combat and you don't kill that Night Titan or whatever, right, and it's going to swing back at you, you can play transhuman in the fight phase, and you can play Fortress of Shield, so that Night Titan who would normally wound you guys on 2s is wounding you on 5s and 6s.
5s and 6s. I mean, and most people are going to, I mean, with just that one, most people in close combat are going to be wounding you on 5s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so making the charge is amazing, but not making the charge, they just thringe in 50-point unit?
Yeah, so 10 of them is 350, and they have a 2-up armor save and a 3-up invul save. Mm-hmm. So they're pretty tanky.
Yeah, I mean, so like 350, they stand there, so I fail my charge against all math. I have a 5-up, feel no pain, and transhuman physiology. You can't wound me on better than 4s. Shoot me. I'm fine with that. Spend your whole army on this.
Yeah, and I like the idea of like positioning it in such a way that you actually deep strike into a building. so that you can charge through a wall and ignore Overwatch. And that way, if you fail your charge, you're like, okay, well, now I'm a building blocking line of sight. So they either have to come through the wall at me, or I'm just going to walk out of there my next turn and charge him anyways.
Yeah, it's a really spicy unit. That's why it was specifically sad about the Grey Knight one. But
yeah, because I wanted that same coolness for the Grey Knights for all the Grey Knight homies out there. And yeah, it's pretty cool to look at all of the new rules that Dark Angels are getting with the addition of some of the generic Codex Astartes stuff. And when you break down their point costs for what they do and the math of their attacks and whatnot, they are right up there with a unit of like Grotesques as one of the best combat units in all of 40K. So if you like weigh the balance between Grotesques and Deathwing Knights at the same point cost, Grotesques have more wounds and more attacks and more movement speed. And then Deathwing Knights have better weapons that hit harder with more damage and way better saves. And now they have all of these like super spicy Adeptus Astartes.
They're actually way harder to kill.
Yeah, they're way harder.
And even though Grotesque can move faster, these guys can actually safely assault you off a deep strike, where Grotesque
right.
Can.
And so like they can deep strike for free, whereas Grotesque you have to pay a CP for that, and they kind of have to have a homunculus
a rerollable 9 for
right.
them, and versus a rerollable 6. Like
yeah.
So these guys, they are incredible. It's an incredible unit.
Oh yeah, I built 10 of them today. Like I'm very excited about this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's solid. So like this is a pretty good day. This has been Grey Knight's got a huge buff. All these leaks we're getting for Dark Angels, making a lot of Dark Angel fans out there who are fanatical as well. They're happy. This is crazy.
Yep.
We talked about 1,000 Suns earlier. We only have a couple things for them, so we don't know. The jury's still out on them, but it wasn't things that sucked. It was those were buffs too.
Yeah, I mean, like we didn't get nearly as much information on them. We only got 4 pieces of information in their little preview, and they were all like cool little things, but we don't really know how the book is going to change the way they play because we have no information on this.
If that book is a full blown new codex, then I'm very excited about these cults. If it's just a couple of things sprinkled in with these cults, I'm more optimistic. I'm like cautiously optimistic. It's like, but it's time to shift. Chaos has been shady and fucking doing their thing for all year. Some of the best players in the ITC tracker are rocking Chaos lists, still going into LVO. I know TJ Lanigan's rocking Chaos. I know Jim Bessel's rocking Chaos. So some of the top guys still doing it.
I definitely would not be surprised if Chaos won LVO.
Mm-hmm.
Like Chaos won LVO. Like,
but
how about
Imperium has been creeping back up with these new Marines, and a lot of the top dogs are running some Iron Hands successor chapters. So I think it's going to be Iron Hand successors or Chaos Soup. Yeah. That's going to be LVO.
Yeah, we shall see.
Which is like that's like the whole narrative, isn't it? Like, that's like chaos. I mean, think about that versus like previous years Haspil of like, oh, this ridiculous Eldar list versus this ridiculous Knight list.
Yeah.
With Catachin heavy weapons. Like, no. We're talking good old fashioned Ayatar versus Space Marines, man. Like, that's good.
Yep.
So I think we covered it all here today, guys. Unless anything else from you guys?
No,
that's about it.
Well, as earlier in the show, I asked Wyatt to do a Would You Rather, and he's like, obviously I have a Would You Rather prepared. Haspil, you got something for us to take us out on?
Of course, yeah. If a boy has been chosen, then a boy shall be king.